So Graham, those who may not know you rather, you just want to tell us what your current role is in the game.
Yeah, so I work for the FA. Been at the FA 13 years now. Um, so yeah, I'm currently an FA youth coach developer, which is a coach developer working in the sort of boys pro game with supporting academy coaches. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my day job and has been for the last 6 months or so, as well as sort of being the project lead on the youth development phase DNA over the last 2 or 3 years. Um, so sort of two roles really.
Going good though, enjoying it.
Yeah, I love it. It's great, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely love it. Like I said, I've been in the FA a while, and probably for the last, for 12 of those years, I worked in grassroots football
Mm-hmm.
in various roles. So I used to be a skills coach and worked in the FA mentor program for 6 years. So hopefully, I'm not sure the coaches out there, but I've been lucky enough to sort of work across the game in lots of different settings. So hopefully, we can chat about stuff that'll connect with people wherever they, do you know what I mean, wherever they coach or wherever they are in the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let's take it back to the beginning though, Graham. And obviously, growing up in Newcastle, how did you get into playing football?
So I grew up in a town called Wallsend in Newcastle, which is like it's basically historic is it the shipbuilding town. But when back years ago, like in the 30s or 40s, the shipbuilders built a youth club in the middle of the town called Wallsend Boys Club. So it was only like a minute or two from my house really. So just spent all my youth as well as being in the garden, um, teaching my brother how to play, obviously. Um, spent the rest of my time at the club. So like I said, at the youth club.
Yeah.
So it was brilliant. It was like paradise that was for kids. Just and it just so happened that there's a lot of players came from that club. In the
Mm.
end, it was never built for that or designed for that. But yeah, so it was a real special time. So everyone used to come in. Some for all different reasons. It was a place to gather socially as much as for any wanting to get better at football and really played for the love of football. But like you say, it was like it's almost like one of these places that you see on TV from like South America. Do you know, like the real rundown indoor, hardcore stone walls, little indoor like hall that we
Yeah.
played. So yeah, like you say, it was paradise for us football mad kids, but also just socially for the community. It was great.
You were a Newcastle fan growing up?
Yeah, Newcastle fan. Yeah,
Yeah.
um, it wasn't bad back then. We had a good team back then with Keegan days and all that. It was brilliant. I think the whole country supported Newcastle back then, apart from their team. So um, yeah, we were spoilt growing up. But yeah, big Newcastle fan. Um, I was at Newcastle then as a kid, so I played a bit grassroots. So I played grassroots football at Wallsend. So there was like the youth club part of it, and then there was the grassroots part of the club where they're like almost, and I'm going back a while, but so I played 11. I played in like my club, boys club football as it was called back then. Just
Mm-hmm.
grassroots football. Played as part of the club. So I played there and for them until I was 16. So that was my sort of games program as a player, and I was also at Newcastle Centre of Excellence as a kid until I was about 12 or 13,
Mm.
and then got released from there, and then signed for West Ham from when I was 16. So I sort of played a lot in grassroots football, played a lot of informal football, played for the school, all that type of stuff. Great days, and then was lucky enough to have the chance to pursue a career.
Yeah. So you said you were down at West Ham, wasn't it? You were given the opportunity there. Just tell us quickly, how was that? And I know we're going to talk about a minute about the sort of like the West Ham way down there, but what was it like as a young player moving? I
Yeah,
suppose
I'm
from
really
there.
like, yeah, it was brilliant. I loved it. So I'm just conscious that it's like it becomes, oh, this is just talk about me, and it's a bit cringy that. But I think just from bits of feedback, I think the things that I believe in now come from that. I think they do come from the experiences. So even in the youth development phase DNA that I've been working on, a lot of those principles I think come out, they come with you.
Mm.
Um, so West Ham was great. So I was lucky enough to go and trial at a few places, and try different clubs and whatever. And from probably about the age of 14, so being at Newcastle, got released, had a lot of growth issues, a lot of growth. I was like, you can't see me because of the sitting down, but I'm like 6'5" and I had a beard when I was about 12. I was one of those kids that was massive. So I had a lot of growth issues, and then when I got about 14, 15, after struggling a little bit relatively, then I started going away to clubs. So I've tried lots of clubs out, if you like. One trial, and I don't know, there's something about West Ham that I loved. And also, my brother is a bit older than me. I know I look 10 years older than him, but he's older than me. So when I started going to West Ham, I was like 14, and he was like just a youth team player. By the time I got to, by the time it got for me to move down to West Ham at 16, he was in the first team and playing for England, the senior team by that time. So the perceptions of, there was a lot of pressure, started like, oh, it's Michael Carrick's brother and all that type of stuff. So, but I nearly didn't go to West Ham, to be honest. I nearly went somewhere else. I didn't follow. Do you know what I mean? Like following the footsteps.
Yeah.
And I just loved it that much that I thought, you know what? When it came to it, I'm gonna go there just because I really, really love the playing style. And really just loved the way it felt. I just felt, don't you just go somewhere, you just feel part of something, and it was brilliant. So I just enjoyed it the most, which was why I decided to go there.
What was it about West Ham? Because obviously, just going through, you obviously mentioned your brother there, but they also produced Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand, Joe Cole, Jermaine Defoe, and obviously Mark Noble now. What is it? And again, this West Ham way, is it the environment? And I know you said you've taken on to your coaching journey. What made it special?
I think there was two or three parts to it. I think one of the parts was, as you mentioned, the West Ham way, which with clubs, even with grassroots clubs as well, some things, sometimes like nostalgic and play tricks. And looking back, it always seems like it was great, but with this, I think it really was a thing where sort of some stuff got passed down through the ages, if you like. Back from, because I've spoken to Tony Carr, our old youth coach, about this, and he was there for like 40 years as the 18s coach. So he had done it about 30 years by the time I got there. So he had been around back in the 60s, 70s himself, with like Ron Greenwood, who later became England manager, and John Lyland. They had almost set the scene, the philosophy for the almost this West Ham way around the style of football, playing quite expansive, attacking, creative football. So that sort of got passed down. There's some stuff around third man running, which Tony used to talk about, and playing in threes, which he got, like you say, it sort of got passed down. So that was a big influence. I think the way the environment and the way, not just the coaches were, but the people around it. And I think this is a big grassroots club where it's not just the coaches that got responsibility for creating the environment, it's everyone that's involved, whether that be people, fundraisers, people in grassroots clubs, whether it be people who are organised, people that I think everyone, parents, everyone's got to plays a part in that, and I don't know, just had a real family feel at West Ham, and then also getting to Tony was just a really good coach, and like you always felt you were learning, so he taught you stuff. So like that combination was stuff that I enjoyed. So, but yeah, there was a lot of. But they also have recruited some talented boys as well. So there's a mix of everything, I think.
Yeah, and I believe injury sort of curtailed your career, did it?
Oh, that's what I tell everyone. I was rubbish.
Yeah.
Great stuff in the pub, innit? Yeah, no. To be fair, I wasn't too bad. I struggled with my back. So when I was 20, I had to finish, and then moved back up to Newcastle.
And that's where you started coaching in their academy.
Yeah,
so you're 20 years old and coaching there.
Yeah, so I was really lucky. So there's no easier way than saying it in a way. But I did my level 2 and started my B license when I was a player, and because I was injured so much, when a lot of the lads didn't really, because even now the scholars at under 18s get the chance to do the level 2 with the PFA. So I did that, and I sort of did it properly, partly because I was living away from home, like the other side at the end of the country, and like a bit bored at times. So I had the time to do it because I was injured. So I did my level 2, and then after I'd done that, I'd started on my B license. Like I say, just as I was injured, because I had like long-term injuries when I was out for months. So that gave me the chance to start coaching a little bit. But then I moved back, and then I started actually coaching at Wallsend Boys Club, where I'd played, like voluntary. So I moved home, didn't really know what to do with my life at that point, and then they were short of a coach for the under-17s. So I was like 21, and I started helping out coaching under-17s, which looking back, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I really enjoyed it and just tried. I was probably more like an older player relationship than a coach player. Do you know what I mean? It was like just bits of tips and advice, and so I did that for a bit, and then I was lucky that Glenn Roder had been manager at West Ham when I was there, and he was academy manager at Newcastle. So he said, well, he first of all said, "Do you want to come and watch? That you're welcome." So I just bumped into him like one of these randomly, and he said, "Oh, do you want to come? Like, feel free to come in and watch or whatever you want to do." I was like really fortunate that I had that chance. So I went in and just watched a lot and spent probably a year, just like watching all the different age groups, and so that was sort of probably what got the foot in the door in that sense. And because Glenn knew as a player, and he knew as he sort of come in, and then after I'd done that for a while, he went, "Oh well, I'd like to give you the chance to coach."
Brilliant.
But sometimes with those things, like you need to show you get opportunities sometimes, and like I say, I'm really fortunate to get that opportunity to even just to go in and watch.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've got to do that and almost volunteer and go and watch sessions, and then all of a sudden you get an opportunity somewhere, and you're a little bit more ready to take it, or you put yourself in a place where an opportunity is more likely. So if there's coaches out there that do want to become academy coaches, for example, at some point, then sometimes you do have to go and watch and observe and read and do that type of stuff before the chance comes. But I was fortunate. So I started there. I was there for probably about part-time at the academy for a year or two. It was great. I worked a bit with the under-10s and then a little bit with the under-16s. It's like an assistant with the under-16. So yeah, I was about 21, 22 then.
Brilliant. That's great. Again, great experience, especially with your boyhood club as well. And then moving on to the FA, you really touched on it. You was in the skills team. We were fortunate to have Sally Needham, who obviously was a skills coach. And Mr. Rivers as well was a skills coach. So it's just a question for you there. Obviously, the program has developed great players in terms of creativity and over 8 years that it was in play, but also coaches as well. Developed like really good coaches, including yourself. What did you enjoy about the skills program?
There was a few things. One, fundamentally coaching the kids, working with the kids was great. It was really important for me to learn how to coach. I played a little bit and then coaching academy for a couple of years, but I wouldn't really say I knew how to coach, to be honest, at that point. So like I learned about learning and children and like more. So I knew a bit about football, which I was obviously always learning about, but it was a real eye opener around that. But just actually, it was almost, for me, it was like testing out, do I actually want to coach? Do I want to be a coach? So it was a 5 to 11s program, and we coached in schools, grassroots clubs, and we had our own centres. So we were full time at the FA. But I think the biggest thing personally was the amount of coaching we did daily. So you maybe work in a school for like half a day or sometimes a day, and then you'd either go to a grassroots club on an evening or to one of our centres. So in terms of like practicing coaching in some really random settings at times, where you've got like you're coaching in a school or in a schoolyard, or you're coaching in a school, and it's like festivities time. There's like there's a piano in the corner, and you've got 30 kids, and so all that stuff I'd learned as a player, none of it was really mattered. Didn't transfer. That didn't match up. And it certainly didn't match up to the 6 or 7 year olds that you're coaching at the time. So it was a big thing was around experience of doing lots of hours coaching to get better at coaching. So that was, and finding that I really enjoyed it. So that was important. And then the other thing, part of it was our CPD, if you like, our staff training. So the skills program started in 2007, I think. It was almost at the same time when the Youth Awards started, and the idea around the Youth Awards, which came from Trevor Brooken trying to shine more of a light on, especially foundation phase coaching, but youth coaching in general, around making it a bit more child-centered. So for our training to start with, we had Pete Sturgis, Paul Holder, who's back at the FA now. These type of people were the people that trained us. So I remember our staff induction, we had 3.5 weeks with Sturge, and I know Pete's been on a couple of weeks ago. And if anyone that's out there doesn't know Pete Sturgis, you need to check him out because he's a genius working with children. But so he sort of trained us. So yeah, that had a big impact. So when you say there's a lot of staff, I think a lot of it was to do with the staff training. And those other people, I've mentioned Sturge and Pete. There's John Allpress, a guy who some really like experts that knew the craft of coaching. Do you know what I mean? And we were just really fortunate to spend that much time with them. And like you say, just sponging people. I think Tony McCallum, I've seen Tony's coming on soon again.
Yeah, Saturday. Yeah.
Tony was a big influence, and so I was really lucky as a young coach. I was about 22 at the time, just being like surrounded by these people. Yeah. So just fortunate to be in the right spot again, probably in some ways, but then like ready to try and just sponge it all up and ask a million questions. And yeah, so that, I think you mentioned there's lots of staff come from that, and I think that's one of the.
No, that's great, mate. And just finally, next step was for you was like became an FA mentor in 2014, and then headed up the North East region as well. Mentoring program important, and obviously great because you can do one-on-one, obviously support with coaches, and also helping clubs develop a club philosophy as well. Again, was that a different kind of set because you're mentoring coaches rather than potentially playing on training people on the pitch?
Yeah, so I went from like coaching. We did a little bits of mentoring in the skills program, and a little bits of like coach education and tutoring courses. So we did bits of that, but then yeah, it was very much around mentoring. So I wasn't coaching. Partly I went into mentoring because my back, I still had problems with my back. So I'd seen a surgeon who said by the time you're like mid-30s, you might struggle to coach. Certainly in the type of coaching I was doing when you're like going around lugging balls everywhere, and you going into schools and you got like pub goals and you got kit and you got balls. So you said you might need to explore another area. So that was a bit like, oh, well, that's not ideal. So then it was mentoring was probably more. So people, we'll have tendencies, don't we, as people, and things that suit us, or like things that not just suit you, but like grab your attention. And mentoring was probably something that even more so than actual coach education and course delivery, which I really enjoy, but mentoring was just probably a little bit more suited to me. There was that bit, but also the role was to be like a regional coach mentor. So that job was more around managing staff as well. So we had I was managing like 55 part-time staff. I think Gary Hindle's on here. If it's the same Gary, that was worked up in North Riding. So, and obviously, as you say, the mentors go out and work with coaches. So the job for us was then to sort of recruit the mentors, but then try and sort of train them, if you like, and support them and deploy them into like which mentors go where. So we get the right mentors in the right places with the right people. So hopefully some people on the call might have had a mentor or know about the program, or some people might be mentors. But yeah, it was about just supporting coaches in grassroots football, and also supporting clubs. This idea of building a legacy and thinking, well, how does this pass down, or how do you help support coaches coming into it? Because as you know, it's really hard. It's starting coaching. I remember one of the first sessions I did, and I was quite fortunate because I had lots of football experiences, and I was coaching a group of kids at a school, and I had my session plan. Because I've been told on my level 2 you need to have a session plan. So I had my session plan, and then the kids turned up. So I had my 3 things I was going to do. So I did the first one. I thought that didn't quite go as well as I wanted. Did the second one. The kids were like all over the place. And it was like 15:15, and I said, 45 minutes. So you're thinking, how am I going to get through this hour? And to be honest, sometimes I still have that feeling, but that's a reality of coaching, isn't it, at times?
Yeah.
But when you start, I think when you're starting out, you need to, especially when you're starting out, you need some support, I think. So the mentor program was really about supporting coaches, especially in grassroots football.
And if anyone is interested in mentoring, just drop me an email. And obviously, we don't know when 2021 will start, but certainly mentoring will be part of it. And for more information, just give me a shout. moving on to present day now. So youth development phase. I'm just seeing some of the messages in the chat there. There might be an issue with opening that file, Graeme, but we'll find a way of getting it to you.
Yeah, I can email it out afterwards or whatever. That's no problem.
Yeah. Youth development phase. So 2017, you headed up that phase and part of the England DNA. So those who may not know, just want to summarise if you can.
Yeah. So 2017, I think it was. I got asked. So still doing the mentoring, still working as a regional mentor, but I got asked by Dan Ashworth, who was the technical director at the FA at the time, to lead this project. So the remit was to link. So if you've been on any of your courses, you'd hopefully be aware of the England DNA and the sort of our blueprint for the national teams, if you like. And also, I'm guessing a lot of you would have seen the work of Pete Sturgis. So a couple of years before that, Pete had started the work around the foundation phase DNA. So the remit from Dan was, do you know what the stuff that Sturgis done? Can you just do that for the next phase? Just like that. But anyway, yeah. So I just asked to sort of link or like do something like what Pete's done for the foundation phase. Not to the extent of like the amount of resources he's created, which is just phenomenal. I can't keep up with Pete, but just to almost show what might come next, and also show how it might link with the national teams. So that was the remit really, and just to put out some guidance, if you like, that's the right word, for coaches coaching in this age phase of 12 to 16.
How does it differ to the foundation phase? Obviously, it's a slightly older age group. Yeah,
so in some ways it's a little bit unhelpful. Do you know when we talk about like the phases? In some ways it's unhelpful because all the kids are on their own journey. So you might get a kid who's under 13, boy or girl, that you might be the coach and it might be the first time they've played. Or you might have someone under 13 or 14 where they've played for 6-7 years and are really good by that point. So that bit of like one of our PE unit, Mark Carter, says that you don't buy shoes for a 12-year-old or whatever. You buy the right size shoe. So in terms of our coaching, whatever setting we work in, I think that's one of the biggest challenges, matching up the coaching to meet the needs of the kids, both why they come, who they are, why they turn up, what they want from the experience. But one part of it, which maybe is different, and it sounds really simple, is the age of the kids. So working with 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, the importance of movement skills and the importance of play is really important, and the real fundamentals of the children and the fascination they've got with the ball and the connection we want them to have with the ball is everything, as Pete talks about, and staying on the ball and staying on the ball skills is vital as that our youngest children get those experiences as they start off. I think as they get to 12, 13, 14, it's almost like the changing years, so the kids will go through a lot of change. So as coaches, we need to try and be ready to nurture them through that. So we'll go through growth, some at different times. Some might not yet have gone through growth. They'll grow at different times. They'll grow at different rates in different ways. They change schools from primary school to secondary school, or depending on the school system, some of it, all that type of stuff. But there's some changes going on in their lives. And just if I ask everyone, just as a reflection of like, who were you when you were 12? Like if you think, like if you take,
I remember.
Really start thinking, what was it? So what would it feel like leaving primary school? Or I remember who was your coach, or what did football feel like? Did you play football? Did you not play football? Had you gone off it by then? Did you love it? Whatever. So thinking back to like what experiences do we need to provide for the kids at that age is really important. And then thinking about the modern day child and who are they. So one of the big things, hopefully, that if you look at the youth development phase resource, or even from what we're talking about, you'll see that this isn't like it's almost an extension of the foundation phase DNA. So the biggest primary message is around the importance of loving the ball and developing a real deep love of the game. And that's regardless of setting. That's whether a 16-year-old's coming to play with England or whether they're playing with their mates on a Friday night. They love the ball and love the game, and help them to foster and develop a real deep love of the ball and connection with the ball and love of the game is paramount. And whatever we do as coaches, which almost we shouldn't do anything at the expense of that, not at risk. But I think that that can sound fluffy, but it potentially, but it's almost it's far more important than that. It's really important. And I think as kids then move to MV11 and as they grow up and some of them start looking like adults, there's a real danger that we just treat them as adults and when they're not ready for that, or we make it too serious too soon, or we make it too competitive for some kids that don't really want it to be competitive. But then you do, which is quite a subtle issue, for some kids that actually, when they get to 13, 14, really want the competition, sometimes the experience might not be competitive enough for them kids. So one of the big things around kids as they go through the growth and puberty and maturation and all that stuff is they become more independent naturally. So all kids will be different and all be unique, but you think to yourself. So if I then ask you, if I ask you, who were you when you were 15 or 16, then you're probably a lot closer to being an adult. And that journey from 12 to 16, there's a big change in that at that time. There's lots of differences. So the brains become more important. Peer pressure grows. There's lots of changes. But if I ask you about like describe a teenager, what would you think? Often Kevin Carrick sometimes comes back. So it's just about like the kids are going through some change, and there's a lot of, as well as the bodies change and the brains change. There's all kinds going on with the kids and their majors, which presents challenges for us as a coach. But sometimes we can't forget or like the love of the ball and love of the game is essential, because if not, the kids will just not play anymore, and actually they'll choose themselves. Like they'll decide. So that love of the ball, love of the game is really fundamental.
I've got a question. I've completely forgotten it. There you go. It was, obviously it's 12 to 16. There's over the last few years, there's been like a bit of a dropout from 16 onwards. Do you see the youth development phase as a way to, as you said, love the ball, love the game, fun, and having that whole emphasis is around trying to keep players continuing the game at whatever level?
Yeah, I think as an FA, we've generally got two aims around with players. It's around trying to keep as many players playing the game as we can, or grow and get more players playing the game, and out of those players help them get better. There's sort of like two ideas. So you can get into more, but generally it's about we want more players playing and keep them playing longer. So it's a really important challenge, and it's a challenge across all sports, and it always has been around the dropout rate of kids dropping out at, as you say, it's 16. But one of the things that's probably changed over the last 20 years is kids seem to be dropping out a little bit more, a little bit earlier. So we're seeing it more like under 14s, and I don't know if people's experiences here around even sometimes leagues struggling to sort of keep going or keeping the team together to fulfill your fixtures. Or it can become a real challenge keeping children involved and just keep playing the game. Or football takes different forms because of their maybe for some at 14, 15, they might not play organised football, but they might go and play with their mates or join like a league somewhere else, a small sided league, or indoor. There's lots of like inner city pick-up football, cages and all. So they might prefer that than the 11v11 that structure. So you get into, as I say, they become more independent. They spend more. They make their own choices. So there's a lot of reasons and pressures, and some people have to work, some kids work, and then they have to, and that's like a good choice. They'll have to, the circumstances dictate. So sometimes it's not all because football is bad, but we just need to try and provide the experiences. And one of the things that we need to try and do is match up the experiences to their motives and why they come and play. And that's always important, I think, especially in this age phase around yeah, why is it? What do they come for? What do they need from the experience? We're done. There's an ongoing, quite a big research project going. I'm seeing Tyrone's asked a few questions, and one of them is about why do you think children are dropping out early? There's a variety of reasons. Some it's because of like external issues, which has always been the case. Sometimes it's around choice. Sometimes it's around just the experiences that. Um, Sometimes it's the commitment, especially more modern day and the new generation, if you like, is around like the commitment of a full season is a problem for some. Just the idea of it is like if it was chunked down, that might be a solution. Um, for some, it's around the social aspect of it. Sometimes it's peer pressure. Sometimes it's like impression management. Sometimes it's the realization that they're not going to play for England, where the dream's still alive when they're younger. For some, so it'll be different for each kid and each context. But there is quite a bit of work going on in the FA and our grassroots team looking at that. And then a bit for us, so some of the bits we can't control. So it might be lifestyle choice. They need to study more for school, like really good right reason. For others, though, and this is the bit as coaches, it might just be because they really don't like the coach, or that the experience that they get isn't what they need, doesn't satisfy them because of how we as the adults present the experience to them or work with them, or so that's the bit we need to try and do our best to avoid. Through matching up the experiences but it's really challenging coaching in this age group. It's really hard to get it right for each kid because they come for different reasons. Like you say, the peer pressure stuff, the way their brains are changing and the testing boundaries and they want to try stuff. Like I say, there's a lot of context to that. But yeah, there's lots of reasons. I think we just got to try and make sure that we do our best to make sure it's not us.
I mentioned this a few times already, actually, Stephen, and it's always mentioned on our previous webinars, but it's important to talk about it. Like, the importance of knowing your players, in particular at this age.
Yeah. Trying to know them, trying to notice where they are in their journey. So individual difference is always a big thing in any phase when I'm coaching children, but especially in the youth development phase, where you get like a 6 foot player playing against a 4 foot. Do you know what I mean? Someone's gone through growth. Like I said, I was joking a bit, but I was big. I went through growth early, which was an advantage at that time because I was like bigger than a lot of the kids, but also because of the rate of my growth, the coordination went. So I was like really strong. I was like playing on ice skates. So you see that, and if you work in the 12, 13s, 14s, you'll see that in the players as you coach. And for girls, there's some slightly different. There's some similar challenges around getting to know the principle, as you rightly say, around getting to know their individual needs is still the same, but they'll go through like puberty and changes earlier, and the experiences they might require. Some of the social fabric might be slightly different to a point, but again, it's always dependent on. It's really important this not to generalize around like 13-year-olds need this, because that's just not true. It just doesn't work like that. And as you're right, we need to really get to know who the kids are. So the three principles of the YD stuff that underpin it all around: love the ball, love the game, developing people and developing players, and inclusive experiences for all. So that ethos just runs through everything. Now, none of those three things are even pretending to be new, but we really deeply think they're important, and they've been important, and they still are important. So that ethos, as I say, needs to run through, and the idea of being inclusive is crucial to what we do, and in the broader sense. So yeah, that ethos is at the center. So you can get into like what session you do for this, or do you know what I mean, how to play 4-3-3 against a 4-4-2. But really, it's those experiences that we need to work from and really work towards. So that's the core bit. And then around the four core principles is around creating the environment, getting the experiences right that go with. So the balance of play and practice and getting competition right. So not just about like practice design, but what are the matches? There's a comment David's asked about formats of 11v11. So we are looking at that as like, is that right? Well, is that right for the children? And probably a better question, is that right for all the children at that age? But we're not saying that it's not important. I think one of the things for now and anyway, before we do the research, is variety is really, really good, really healthy for the kids. So if there is futsal going on down the road and they're under 14s, great. It's great for them. Like, encourage it. If you can, in a pre-season, instead of just playing 11v11, maybe play a couple of 7v7s, or really value that small-sided format has still got real value for both the engagement of the kids and the experiences that they get, but also actually like the technical and physical and psychosocial returns from small-sided are still really there and really beneficial. So yeah, I think for some, I think we maybe moved too soon. But also, I think for all, we need to make sure or try our best, because some of it, especially in grassroots football, you can't control all the formats and all that type of thing. We're not asking you to, but if there is opportunities to give kids variety, then I think the general message is like, take it and encourage it. And it might not be with you, so there might just be something else going on somewhere that you think, you say to the kids you coach, oh well, you might want to try that as well, because that might help you football, or you really enjoy it. So just having that mindset of variety can be really important. So even they might be playing MB11 on a weekend, but they might be doing something else midweek, or for part of the year they might play futsal as well. So you've got like a blend of both going on. I think that's probably like the recommendation if possible.
How important is playing other sports as well in terms of like transferable skills at that age in particular?
It's still really important. One of the things off growth spurts is, like I said, it can be like a lack of coordination and almost like you need to relearn some skills. So multi-sports can be a really useful way of doing that, especially in like early youth development phase. But I also think, and this is why we say the love of the ball and love of the game thing's really important. If they really enjoy, put them in the direction of the things they enjoy. So if they do enjoy other sports, great, go and play it. I think sometimes we can lose sight of the spirit of and the essence of what we're trying to do, and just the sheer joy of playing football, the sheer joy of moving in different ways and competing against people without needing leagues, which are leagues come and all that, but just like you might play table tennis against someone and just the joy of playing table tennis, or you might, whatever you do, just I don't know where that came from, but yeah. So I think that we need to have that front and center. But I think one of the things is one of the key. So the environment's crucial. So that we've been talking about that at the FA for years, and it's important in the foundation phase, but it's still important in the youth development phase of how we create it. Now that might feel a little bit different as the kids grow a bit older, but the environment they still need to feel safe and be safe, both from a safeguarding point of view, which is paramount importance at this age, but also from like a feeling safe in the environment where they can be themselves, they can try things. That's actually really, really important, because as the brains change, they'll want to test boundaries. It's almost the way they're wired. They're meant to. It's like a great opportunity for learning. So that's really important. So the environment, give a variety of experiences, and still seeing the value of play, of informal play. It's still a really good, useful way of learning, as well as the more structured, depending on why the kids play, some of the more structured stuff that we give them. But then developing the individual within the team is vital. And I think one of the things around moving, not just formats, where David asked about 11v11, and there's a question from Sonny about 11v11 and the future of football, is, okay, there's one debate about when we introduce kids to 11v11, that's like one debate. The other one is, even if they're playing 11v11, where do we focus our coaching? Do we focus it around team and team tactics, or do we still focus it around the individuals to try and help us as coaches to help them as individuals within the team? Now, football's a team game, so what I'm not talking about here is that everyone plays their own game and does what they want and are ball greedy and don't play as part of the team. That's not it. It's just about having a lens on who's this even think of a player like your coach in your mind, and think of who within your group, whatever age, who are the different people that play, or kids that play, and within it, what do they need support with? What do they need from this experience, and what are they getting, and how do we support them? And not being too team or only team orientated, and that comes out almost in the technical bits as well, around helping kids with some of the staying on the ball is still important. One of the challenges we're finding in reality is kids get to 11, and especially because the foundation phase ends, it's like you get to 12. It's almost, remember all that stuff you could do when you're in that foundation phase, where you could like smile and be happy and skillful on the ball and do a bit with the ball and stay on the ball for a bit. Well, if I forget that, because now we're into the serious stuff, and we need to like you say, we need to try and shift that, and staying on the ball skills are really important. But where it leads to is, if you can stay on the ball, you've got the skills to stay on the ball, then when you do share it, you can choose the right time, and you're sharing the ball or playing your mate in on the right at the right time, and you're doing it on your terms. You can't stay on the ball. You haven't got the skills to stay on the ball. The game becomes reactive. You're a bit anxious, and you can see the people. Do you know what I mean? And then the next player's trying to receive, and it's a bobbly pass, and they're getting pressure, and then the next one's bombing. It's like a knock-on effect, so the staying on the ball skills actually unlock a lot of what comes next. So if you want to build up from the back, or you want to be creative in the final third, staying on the ball for the right amount of time gives you a choice and gives you the control of some of those moments. But that's not to say we want just ball greedy players. Or actually, it might be right to get it, and someone's in a better place, so you pass it straight away. That's great, but you're doing it by because you're seeing that's the choice, that's the right choice in the moment. But them staying on the ball skills need to keep being refined, as they can't just stop. So some of the work that Pete's trying to embed with the wider game is still important, and then it's just almost, well, when are they ready to really start understanding how to connect with the teammates, connect and combine, and playing in 2s and 3s, and then when they're ready, then we can get into the unit and team tactical bits, but so much not being too team orientated too soon, even if they are playing bigger numbers. So that's a challenge in itself. But that's not to say that we should hold kids back, or it's not to say that we shouldn't talk about the role in the team. It's important. We'll just make sure we help them with where they're at in the journey. Like I said, one kid might be 10 and maybe further on than another kid that's 14. So we almost need to see past the age a little bit and think, well, who are the kids? Why did they come? Try and match the expectations and their needs, which is really easy as a principle. It's not that easy in reality, but I think if we start from that point, then we might keep more kids in the game. And one of the things I think the national teams, one of their mantras, especially the under 15s, 16s, is play with freedom. So again, that idea that they can express themselves when they play for England 15s, 16s, they can do a bit on the ball. They can try and defend, and when they defend, and be a bit more intelligent and try to might be nipping in front of someone to try and intercept. All these things, it's like a feeling. Again, that doesn't mean the right back can go and play left wing whenever they want. That doesn't mean that. It's about the feeling of freedom and expressing themselves. So that's really what we're trying to encourage.
Yeah, I think if you were go start again on a national team front there, I remember last summer when John Stones playing against the Dutch in the Nations League, trying to play out the back, and he was criticised heavily in the press. But I think, especially coaches and people that understand the England DNA, he did it again in the second. He'll always do it again as well, because that's how he's been built up and how he's been coached. Is that right? Is that all right?
Yeah, and then I think one of the ways of putting it is there is a decision-making aspect of football that's important. So people will all have different tolerance levels of risk and these types of things, but it's more just if any player, so you mentioned John Stones, it could be any of those players, or it could be any player anywhere, if they don't get the chance to explore and test their boundaries, and we'll never know where they can get. If we're almost clip the wings when they're 12, 13, and so don't do that, not on there, they'll never they'll never be able to search for what actually possible, like what they can do. When you get to like playing for England, and by the way, I'm not going against what you're saying about John Stones. I'm just making the point. When you get to England and it's like, and the professionals, the adults, and then there's some decision making around in terms of strategy thingy. Do you know what I mean? It's a different discussion. When we're working with children, I think we've got to help them explore what's right, what's wrong. And if we take away them decisions because their capacity to explore and see what they're capable of, we'll never know what they're capable of. So that might be a winger where, and they keep receiving it. And you think, well, what ways can you take your opponent on? How else can you do it? What other ways can you find? Now, if they do run into trouble a couple of times, if all we say is like pass it, then they'll never develop the ability to do it. Now, they might never quite get there, so we might, again, as they get older, especially sort of 16 on, you might start thinking about, right, this is where you're at, and you need to understand your game, your strengths and weaknesses, and kids do that naturally. Like you'll know in the schoolyard where who's fast, who's the fastest one. So, do you know what I mean? Who's got the hardest shot? So you like naturally you pick up some of that around understanding your own strengths. But I think it's just not putting a cap on the kids too soon, out of like safety or out of real short-term view.
Yeah, no, just got a quick example. Just remember, got like last 10 minutes or so. If you've got a question, just remember to type or put your hand. Just back clipping their wings there. Just from my personal point of view, it was 20 years ago now. So I was about 14. My coach said before the games, keep it short passing, keep the ball, and then like 5 minutes later, I'll get the ball and try and Hollywood it, and it goes out of play. And I just remember, the fact I remember it, I suppose, is poignant. Like, just no, don't do that. So I never did it again. Another 2 years. Like, again, at that age, it's so impactful for that individual to receive feedback. It's got to be make sure it's
that, because what you get around that is the influence of your mates. You become a lot more conscious. Generally, I'm not talking about you, Rich, personally. I just know generally that age group, the way your brain's wired, I guess, is that you become a lot more sensitive to how you're seen. So if you get that type of feedback in front of your mates, then it can have quite as you described, quite big effects. So we've got to be careful around. As coaches, be aware that it can have quite a big effect. And also, what you'll find is the pressure, the peer pressures, the natural peer pressure from each other, even without the coach being there, sort of ramps up often. I'm talking about things here which, like, it's a generalization, so keep that in mind, obviously. But it tends to ramp up, so you get a lot of pressures from you. Do you know what I mean? And you might get some like mourning or whatever. So sometimes you're managing some of that. But you can have that type of effect where, and for some, that's almost puts them off the game. But that's not to say that you don't help coach them to make better decisions. But maybe a different way might be to say, well, Rich, what you're thinking, what you're working. Do you know what I mean? What you're trying to do, what you're seeing, what you're thinking. Have you thought about this? Do you know what I mean? What are you? If you're trying to play a big pass every time and it keeps going out, then it's like, well, maybe that's not best. Do you know what I mean? So it's not about, say, like literally anyone can just do everything, and so I'm not sure that's great for learning either.
Yeah.
So one of the things John McDermott, who used to be at Spurs and he came into the FA, one of his sayings that I've seen is he says there's only one thing that kids hate more than rules, and that's no rules at all. And there's like but this age, look, if you have any types of boundaries, they will test them. They will test them, but they need them. It's really important that you have them. But in a social sense of like, that's stepping outside the boundary. That's not right for the group. So having some clear boundaries about what's, because they will be tested, almost there to be tested in this age group. So that's really important. But yeah, you sort of, you need to have them. But also in the football around, you do need to, we still want to help the players learn, and we might need a coach, or we might need to actually stand still and go back to a pitch and say, what were you thinking, or have you tried? So, like I say, but it's coming from a place of understanding the kids, understanding why they're playing, and trying to match your coaching to that, which takes some skill. It's not easy, and we won't get it right all the time.
No.
Not at all. But it's almost being careful of not putting them off the game. You're not taking away some of the potential by stopping them doing the things that they want to do, or just being careful and considering that. That's probably the best way of putting it, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just going off what a picture you put on Twitter the other day, Graeme, around a FA coaching manual from 1936, which is fascinating, by the way. And I've got a question for you, and I know you're not going to know the answer, but I'm just interested to see where you think coaching is, grassroots coaching or whatever you like, in 2036, what that will be like. Well, yeah, that 100 years difference, because there's some of the quotes you pulled out were relevant to a point. Obviously, the jargon's changed and whatnot. But yeah, what do you think? And especially like in 16 years' time with the DNA, with the phases. How would you see it?
So just as a personal reflection, I'm going to go back a little bit to the start. Is when I got asked to do this project, lead the England Youth Development Phase DNA project. I laughed about following in Sturgis' footsteps, but I was genuine about that as well, because how do you follow that? One of the things I'm coming on here just to share some thoughts and some of the things we've found. I'm not saying that I've got the answers one bit, but one of the things I would say I'm quite proud of what I've done is spoke to a lot more experienced people than myself. So I'm not talking about going back as far as 1936, by the way, in the BBC. But my first port of call was a guy called Craig Simmons, who worked at the FA for 30, 40 years. He's retired now, but he came up with a four-corner model 30 years ago, 20, 25, 30 years ago.
Okay.
So like I went to see Simon, was like, can you give us some advice? I spoke to Tony Carr like off camera about what if you were doing it again, like what do you think still relevant now? There's a guy, Dave Parnaby, who works at Middlesbrough Academy, but also I spoke to people who have been at grassroots. So there is a bit about the modern thinking and the modern game, but I think more importantly is like what are the timeless principles that were important then and are still important now. Now that might look and feel a little bit different as generations change, but the fundamentals around that came out of that book were the importance of loving the ball, loving the game. You might use different words, but the essence of the game and the sportsmanship and these words that were like really important. And the thing around skill there's another book in 1952 from Walter Winterbottom, and he's talking about the continental teams having such a high skill level and technique and appreciation of technique. So those types of discussions have been happening for a long time. But the principle of the experiences that players have and focusing on the fundamentals first, and basically a team, 11-a-side team, it'll be limited by the individual capabilities to a certain extent. So we need to keep developing individuals, and also things like unorthodox play or individuals that have got something different are often the ones that unlock organized defenses. So some of the actual ideas are still the same about how do we help get players to disrupt an organized defense or outthink and outwit each other. So those types of things and words are still as relevant now. Now, obviously, some of the methods have changed. The scale of football, the way where football's changed. Actually, there's loads of the vast majority of it must be better around safeguarding, around the way it's organised, the safety, the environments mainly compared to some of the things years gone by, I'm guessing. So things move on, society moves on, but I think there is some things I think we're going to learn from the past. I think that's the point. And things that have really worked and things that haven't worked. But I thought one of the biggest things for me in my job was bringing with us the stuff that was really important. And like I've said, creating the environment. It's like probably everyone's heard that before. It's like, yeah, that sounds obvious, but it's still really important. And it's really hard to get right. So as well as thinking about all the other stuff, let's make sure we get like almost what does it feel? How would it feel to be coached by you? What's the atmosphere like on a Tuesday night when they come? What will make it better? Is it right? What's the gauge? What's the what's the barometer? Is it what's the heat? Do you know what I mean? It's like, is it too hot? Is it too hot in here? Or is it not hot enough? Do you know what I mean? That type of getting the environment right it's really hard. So it's that type of thing around, like, there is some simple things like love the ball of the game. Sounds like, yeah, of course, but then there's more kids than ever dropping out. So what does that mean to those kids? Why is it that they haven't got the love for the? Do you know what I mean? What are the barriers? What are we doing to really nurture it and keep that sort of flame for football burning bright? So we've got such an attachment. The kids have got such an attachment. It'll mean different things to different kids, but like, so some of the things I've said already, I'm repeating myself a little bit, but it's almost like some of these ideas are quite simple. The hard to do, and they're still right. So like, we need to still talk about this stuff, even though we've talked about it years gone by as well.
I just want to head to the questions now, Graeme. So I don't want to take too much of your time up, but so David Summers says, I think the point you made about the different growth rates is a really good one. The height and body shape difference at under 14 is really stark. Some players in our team are just over 5 foot. The tallest one is 5'10". Any advice on how to approach that in training?
Yeah, so match day is harder because, especially in grassroots, you can't really control what the opposition do. But I just understand that in early, someone that's maybe more mature or bigger or goes through their growth spurts earlier, we need to challenge and support them, and we need to challenge and support the later developers. Now, ways of doing that, it might be the positions that they play. It might be on match days, positions that they play, the roles that you ask them to do, how you do you know what I mean? So that type of thing can actually help. In terms of training, how you match players up. Sometimes it's good for a big player to play against a smaller player or a faster player, or sometimes they might need matched up. So I think just almost if you're like picking your teams, if you're doing a whole part whole session, which is great for kids this age. If you're doing like a whole part whole type session or game-based practice, then it might just be about thinking about how to have some consideration about who you match up against who, or the individual challenges that you can ask of the kids. So yeah, there's just some, or even the size of the pitch. Sometimes variety is good, and I know often. My own grassroots club, you've got like 8 people on 111 side pitch, 8 groups. I'm talking about not 8 people, 8 groups. So you've got You've got like half of a quarter, really, sometimes, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
But then just thinking, well, if that maybe in the summer, if you've got a grass pitch, then maybe making sure you do some bigger space practices, so the kids get practices development physically different ways, but and the chance to practice in different spaces. And so these things around just moving the spaces or the numbers, or who plays against who, are just, I say, simple ways. But again, they sound simple, but it takes some consideration to get right. And also you'll do it and you think, that actually I wanted to get this and I did it and it didn't quite work out. So yeah, that's coaching, isn't it? But that's one. And then the other point, just on the growth, is it'll come out in the football. So as they're going through growth, the game might change. So they are all of a sudden capable of. So it might even be something simple as a range of pass. So all of a sudden they're capable because of the strength. They can. 2 years ago they could play a 20-yard pass. Now they can play a 50-yard diagonal. Some of them. So obviously it might be technical because they're technically really good, but it might just be that the physical capabilities and they've got more power, so they can play. So the game changes as they change, but more, not just the game, but their individual game might change in the way they play. So they might even play the same position, but the way they play, they might just be capable of things that they weren't. So they've got to like search, and as the games change, as their bodies change, as well as in a general sense in life. But actually in footy, then the things they're capable of, or the opposite. So if, like a kid that's relatively big and goes through growth early, and that's the old one of like people catch them up. Or that can happen, not always, but it can happen. So again, you might have I think often we think about the kids in the middle of the group, or the strugglers, or some of the smaller kids, or the late developers, about how do we challenge how do I support them? But they need challenge in their own way. But also, the bigger kids need challenged around the decision making and the solutions and technically. So then, if kids do catch them up, if you like, then they're not just reliant on the size. So just those types of things around. Which again, saying that it's really not easy to do in reality, but just having that in your mind around who are the kids and like how are we going to stretch and challenge them all, and as well as supporting and nurturing them through.
Comes down to knowing your players again, definitely. Yeah. Tyrone asks, Dave says brilliant. Thanks for that. Thanks, Dave. Tyrone says, how do you keep all your players engaged when you are not driving a session?
Yeah, that's a really that's quite a tough one to ask without the context, but it often comes down to individual motivations of why the kid's there. The biggest challenge, I think, and you have your own ideas on this, is when you get some kids that want to come to play with their mates and they want a real social experience, and within the same group you've got kids that want to take football seriously and they really want to, like, really competitive in the sense they want to win. And when you get the mismatch, that's when I think it's the most challenging. I think, but again, I think having conversations about it around like, well, what do we want to, like, what do we want to get from this season, or what do we want to get from the next few weeks, or is a way of trying to negate some of that and almost balancing. Well, we might almost treat experiences differently and getting a range as well. But you got, I think it's a subtle one. It's not easy, but I think involving them in the process, asking them, having that about you where it's not, you need some boundaries, but they need some autonomy, especially that age. They need to feel the independence. They need to feel where they can get a bit. Someone asked on one of your questions that you had sent before, Rich, was around like who's involved in the tactics. Do you involve the players in the tactics? And again, it's not a yes or no answer. It is sort of yes, but it takes a bit of skill to do it. So if you just say like, what should the tactics be today, and then each kid comes back with a totally different answer, then that's on the spot. That can be quite hard to manage. So it needs to be part of a process where you take give and take, but you really are trying to involve them as much in the process as you can. And what I mean by that is by considering why do they come, what do they want from this on a Tuesday night. So just a quick story, and I mention it quite often, is I was at a charity session. It was in the north. It was at a charity kicks. It was at a kick session. So basically, a kick session is run by a football club's foundation, like a charity arm of the football club, and kids just come and play. And it's often in like inner city areas, often disadvantaged type areas, and kids just come and play. So I was there one night. It was a Friday night, and this kid playing. He was like doing all kinds, doing he like thinking. And I said to the coach that was running it, and I was just there as a bit of a guest, just as a tag along, really, just having a look. And I said to the coach, who's like, okay, he can play a bit, and he went, oh yeah, he's just signed for like this club, and like pro club academy. And he was only 15, but he was playing for their under 18s the next day. He was here at this like turn and play session, like it was like a cage type session, you know, just real mix. So there's a bit in that where sometimes you can put labels on kids, like it's he or she is a grassroots kid, or she's in an RTC. So like, but they're still children, and like a 16-year-old that plays for England, still a 16-year-old, as is someone that's playing football for the first time. But I think the point is, if you then think, I need to give this kid on a Friday night some real serious coaching about how to defend in a low block and back four, back three, and probably not coming for that. You need to provide this real social experience where there's a lot of play, and a lot of the stuff will be around. There's a reason that he wants to come on a Friday, so like give him the experience he wants on a Friday, and then tomorrow when he's playing for the under 18s, he'll get the coaching around his role in the team and the structural stuff, and that's great because he needs that there as well. But sometimes it's easy to think, like, almost pigeonhole the kids as well. So I think it's just almost thinking about, well, why is this group of kids and why are the individuals here tonight or today, and what's my role as a coach to try and support them? And they might actually need this from me today, but actually another time might be they need coach, they need put in the positions, and this is how you defend when the ball's here, and this is how you defend, or whatever. So it's just around trying to, but I think that's the bit where you said about meeting individual needs, which it's like absolutely, but it's hard. And then just considering it and thinking, well, what do they want, and what role then have I got to play in facilitating that experience for the kids?
Oh, that's great, mate. Couple more, and then we'll call it a night. But James says, do you think futsal should be more accessible over here? I think it's, again, generic question. But...
Yeah, in terms of from a purely player development point of view, yes. All the way through, as I said about formats, variety is good. If you think futsal by itself, like on its own as a sport and a game, if you like, yeah, needs highlighting the benefits of it, and just again the pure enjoyment of playing such a good game. So that, yeah, I would back anything to increase futsal and the not reputation, but do you know what I mean? The accessibility, all those would be, it's personal opinion. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like facilities and all the funding and all the policies and all this type of thing, that's not for me really. But to comment on it's not like, oh no, that's not my like area. However, we do believe strongly that futsal is important, or can be such a great, so it can help for futsal in itself, but it can also help for football returns. So yeah, would be a simple answer on that.
No, that's great. I think I completely agree. Sonny asked, do you think short-term rewards, i.e. mini competitions throughout a season, would keep kids more engaged? Plus mix up 5v5, 7v7, 11v11. Sit in lower half of the league would surely lower the attraction to most of the young. More chances to win at a younger age would be beneficial.
The short answer is the principle of it. Yes, and I'm with you. I think, and also that we see the value in different formats. Because it's 7v7, it's like not the real game. I think that limits us culturally, but also 11v11 can be a really good thing. So I'm not saying that you should play 11v11. That's another important point to make. But in terms of competition, we are looking at like what the competition formats are. Not just match formats of like numbers, but length of seasons and around what will engage kids. Now the hard answer, it's like a great cop-out answer, but it will depend on the kids. So some kids will want to play more traditional season that marries up with the adult game, so they feel that they're playing the adult game. So often when you ask kids, they want to play 11v11 on the big pitch, but then sometimes after, if they haven't had much touch of the ball, then they didn't really enjoy it. But it's the image and the thing. So it's not easy. It's quite complex. But I think a variety, or at least the opportunity to. So some almost a little bit more choice of I'll sign up for this. I want this football experience. I think is something that the FA are looking into.
I bet a lot of players would probably play all of it as well.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to see. All right, we'll finish on this question here, Graeme. This is a good question actually. So, what will success look like in 5 years' time for the youth development phase?
That we are better at. I say we. I'm not talking about the FA. I mean the game's in a better place around providing experiences that the kids need. I say need, can really thrive in. As young people, primarily as young people, because sport and football can be a place where for some it's an escape. It really is. You can educate, you can learn life lessons, you can learn how to win and lose, learn how to be good teammates, you can learn how to lead. Football can be, if we get it right, such an important space. I'm going to link that back to Wolves and Boys Club because that's what it was for us. So it was a youth club which 5 England internationals came from, but that's not actually that important. the important bit is the stories and the memories and feeling something part of something bigger than yourself and having such a great time and such brilliant memories of playing football and sport and snooker and pool sometimes or whatever. So those experiences for the kids that will just keep, and lots of kids are getting great experiences. So we need to build on that and make sure more get better experiences that will really match up why the kids come, where they're at, and what they can get as people from football and what the role we can play. One of the things around, if you think back to like teachers or coaches, who are your best coaches, especially in these teenage years, and think about what defines them. It's often the things around they were there, they were patient, they were there for us when I needed them. They believed in like me more than even I believed in myself. There's been different reasons, but often it's around more of the social reasons that this is and we need to provide that. So there's stuff around like being role models for the kids. The fact that you turn up every night of the week, not every or once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, every week, can never be underestimated. And often the thing with the teenagers is you won't get the thanks now, but in like 10 years time, you're like walking down the street and you see that kid who's now an adult, and then you see, do you know what, at the time I'm so like, I had one. I must have been a nightmare to deal with or whatever, but like almost appreciation of, well, I really appreciate that you were there, that you were that person that came every week. So sometimes it will be hard and challenging, but providing those experiences for the kids. Then we'll get to the football bit around get them like help them set them free, get them exploring the game, and coach them and try and teach them around the right decisions. But giving them that platform and giving them that experience in the football as well, that they can really enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And play with like joy and imagination and hard work, and really lose themselves, be immersed in the game, because that'll drive the learning and help them get better. So I think that's what we want to get to and keep striving towards. But a lot of this stuff is like I'm guessing you guys on the call are doing a lot of this stuff already, if not all of it. But we can't always affect everyone. But if we're going to do the best we can to just try and provide the best experiences for the kids, I think that's what we've just got to keep striving for.
Brilliant way to sum up, mate. And just want to highlight, you recently did a CPD session, didn't you, with Paul McGuinness around player development reflections, which is available on YouTube. Is that right?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I can email all the links. That's on the FA, like you say, learning.
Yeah, we'll get that to you. But take a look, guys, if you haven't seen it. And there's obviously lots of content on FA Learner's YouTube page, the Boot Room with Graeme, and regarding the youth development phase. So highly recommend that. Matt Leake, I'll send you an email, some links and stuff. Just conscious of time, but Graeme, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me, like you said.
No worries, anytime, mate. But yeah, brilliant. Lots to take away personally. I know these guys who come every week to these sessions. I found it very valuable as well. So thank you. Look after yourself.
Thanks for having me. Keep up the good work, everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully back on the green stuff soon, mate.